terrific start to the March Madness tournament. Avery, how about Oakland? Oakland beating Kentucky. Kentucky's misery under John Calipari continues. Where does Kentucky go from here? And what are your thoughts on Oakland?
The Oakland taking down Kentucky is probably one of the biggest upsets since Virginia was upset by Fairleigh Dixon a few years ago. This is a 14th seed team. Remember the name, Jake Golke. 10 3-pointers. And isn't it a bit interesting that
That man could have missed.
We're talking about a school that's not far from an NBA team that is known for just draining threes that look so easy. And them just staying in it with Kentucky. I think that's key for a lot of these teams. Like, I had to switch up my hat. I have the gray hat on because if the first day was wild, the second day is going to be wild too. But last night, that was literally the upset of the night. Oakland taking down Kentucky. And Kentucky literally has to look inward right now. They are part of a conference that just dominates. SEC teams just dominate everywhere. And the fact that they get knocked out of the first round, and it looked like their head just wasn't in it. So I think they really need to look inward. Those players that maybe think about going to the draft, they may want to hold off on that if that's what their last game really wants to be. But I think Kentucky head coach Calipari needs to really take a look at his players and take a look at what went wrong. So far, they were point for point. This was a back and forth game that Kentucky at any point could have pulled away. But remember the name, Jake Golke. We may be hearing that name later because Oakland gets to take on NC State, which is the ACC champion. So a 14th seed taken down a 3. So already that's interesting.
And NC State continue to silence critics because they pulled off an impressive win last night. But Kentucky, they're not a good defensive team. It's like their bread and butter is just to outscore you, outshoot you. But listen, I understand that we're in an era of the three-point shot has just been all over the place. But it was just making my head scratch watching 3 after 3 after 3 from both teams in the second half. When I started watching basketball, I was watching guys getting on the post. Not just relying on threes, but getting on the post. And it's like to see the transition, the evolution of the game. It takes the fun out of it for me. But I understand that's the era that we live in nowadays. But I'm proud for Oakland for advancing. NC State, like I said, they just continue. They're one of the hottest teams right now in the tournament.
I agree, definitely.
And yeah, and what's the other one? I said, oh yes, Oregon.
Oh yeah.
The Pac-12 winners. I'm not sleeping on them at all. Many people are sleeping on them, but that was a statement that they made last night.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting, they're an 11th seed. When the tournament brackets were announced, a lot of analysts were saying, look to the 11 seeds to possibly handle some upsets. Usually you're looking at maybe like a 12 or 13th seed to do that. But the Oregon Ducks, remember, this is a school that their conference is not going to exist anymore. So them playing South Carolina and not only, keep in it with South Carolina, but the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks are in the tournament too. So when you have a men's and women's team that are both playing in a tournament, you kind of feel that you want to do the very best to show your counterparts that not only do you belong there, that you can win too. But the Oregon Ducks just kept getting points. They just kept playing very good defense late in the game. And I'm one of I would agree with you too, the evolution of the game. I really didn't start following it until I played it in middle school, and I was on post. I was a post player. I was a forward and a center. So my goal was to rebound. So I was coached how to rebound. So even when I still look at basketball, I look to see who is down, who's down post, who is going to make those block shots, who is going to get those offensive rebounds, who is going to get those rebounds to get that fast break going. Oregon was just, and here's another name to remember, Jermaine Cosair, 40 points against his former team. He transferred from South Carolina and he put up 40 points. And literally that was the nail in the coffin for South Carolina. But that was just a really, really great game. A lot of back and forth action, an 8-point run here, a 5-point run there, and then defense just stepping up. So definitely need to keep an eye on Oregon. Definitely don't want to sleep on them either. An 11 seed that did it last night as well.
And those 40 points is the third most in the last 25 years. Wally Zerbiak did in 99, and then Steph Curry did in 2008 with Davidson. So that's a great company that he joined. Now to moving on for today's game. This is one of the matchups. There's several good matchups today. But this one intrigues me. And because of I had to put this out right away, this content, I had to focus on one game that is late afternoon and the other one in the evening. So this first one, that it's gonna be at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Time, New Mexico versus Clemson. That matchup intrigues me. New Mexico, they have beaten 3 straight opponents. Those are Air Force, Boise State, and Colorado State, each by double digits. So in the conference tournament, which was the MWC tournament, their guard, Jalen House, he averaged 23 points per game, 3.5 assists. And in the title game, he had a game-high 28 points and was named the tournament MVP. So New Mexico is coming in with some momentum. I predict that they could win by at least 2 points. I see them as a close game. Clemson is a great free throw shooting team. They're ranked 9th in the nation when it comes to free throws. And New Mexico, for them to win this game, they had to stay away from fouling because they're one of those teams that they commit a lot of fouls. So, but I picked New Mexico, and but yeah, you got to keep Clemson away from the free throw line.
I agree with you. And this goes back to what we were saying. This is New Mexico. They won their Mountain West Conference Championship. They are an 11 seed and they are playing Clemson. So not only does this intrigue me very well, but even if you look at the analytics, they have Clemson at 61% with New Mexico just at 38.9. So you're still looking at a third to a quarter or fifth of people kind of pulling for New Mexico on this one. And you're correct. The New Mexico Lobos, they play a really, really physical game. So they cannot commit a lot of fouls to get Clemson on the foul line. And if that's the case, figure out a way, even if you can't really play a physical game, rattle Clemson because they are so good on the free throw line. If they cannot make their free throws, and this happened to Grambling State in their in Montana State late, they could not make their free throws. So I look for this to be a very interesting matchup as well. So not only do you win your conference, you play Clemson, who is a really good free throw shooting team. So you're going to have to play really good defense, but you can't be too physical on your defense. And I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to go with the New Mexico Lobos, but I'm going to give them a bit more of a stretch. I'm going to go that the Lobos are going to win by 7.
Oh, not too shabby. Last but not least, Vermont versus your team, Duke. Tip-off starts at 7:10 Eastern Time. Um, Vermont has not reached the second round since 2005. Offensively, they don't have anyone that is averaging more than 12 or 14 points per game. So offensively, I don't know how they're gonna keep up with Duke. Um, and Duke is a good defensive team as well. So, but then again, Vermont is coming into the tournament on a 10-game winning streak. So they're coming in hot into the tournament. And Duke is, they're gonna come in pissed off because they lost to NC State. Um, so anything can happen in this game, but I do have Duke winning this game by at least 8 to 9 points. I'll say that. And yeah, make the best team win, but I see this game going more towards Duke's way.
I agree with you. Even though we're now in a new era for the Duke Blue Devils, I I think Duke should not sleep on Vermont. When teams have a hot streak, especially going into a tournament, they let that momentum carry into their gameplay. So Vermont is already hot with a winning streak. They want to keep that going. Even though they see a storied school at the other end of the court, they're not going to let that phase them. So they're probably going to come out real intense. They're probably going to stay in it as much as they can. But I do see Duke pulling away with it probably late in the first half and then at the beginning of the second half. Kyle Flipopowski, their big man, he averages 32, he averages 17 points a game, averages over about 32 minutes per game. So I look to him to be very consistent in the paint. I look for him to play some really good defense when needed. I also look for Duke to play some really good defense. So I am rooting for my Duke Blue Devils, and I'm gonna pull for them, and I have them winning by 10.